Okay, we're back. This is part 2 with Mr. Greg Caton and his discussion on his ayahuasca vision quests. And that is documented in his book, The Gospel of 2012, according to Ayahuasca. So let's pick up where we left off. Greg, you were telling us about your ayahuasca vision quests and how you handle those.
Well, any book, I don't care what the book is, every book has a genesis, an initial idea, a thought, something that actually got the whole ball rolling. So if you would ask me, what was the genesis, how did this thing get started? And how it got started is that I had a ayahuasca vision quest in November of 2011, just a couple months after I had gotten back from the States, and all of that is discussed in my book, Living on the Precipice. What happened to me, how I was kidnapped, how Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, signed an order to have me illegally kidnapped. That all actually happened, by the way.
Hillary Clinton was a busy lady. She did.
Well, her position at that time was U.S. Secretary of State. So she signed an order to have me illegally kidnapped, which actually happened to me on December 2nd, 2009. And I was taken back to the state from Ecuador.
So you were already living in Ecuador, and Hillary signs an order to have you kidnapped away from Ecuador and brought back to the States. Why did she want you back in the States?
Well, who knows what, who knows what was really behind. You never really know the people that are behind the scenes who are pulling the strings, whoever is in the deep state that does these kind of things. But they were upset with me because of things that I had done. And what they did was what they do in the United States is the country with more people behind bars than any other country in the world per capita. It's not a free country.
Yes.
So I don't want to get too sidetracked because we'll get off topic. Okay, I'll just try to say this as quickly as possible. They went after me in 2003 and I was arrested, and they said that I was selling illegal drugs. Herbs, my herbs. They're saying my herbs were illegal drugs. I wasn't selling drugs. I was never been involved in narcotics. So what people don't know in the United States is that when they decide they're going to go after you, they threaten you, your children, your spouse. And all this has been discussed many times. Paul Craig Roberts wrote a book in 1999 called The Tyranny of Good Intentions, which discusses how the plea agreement process is just torture. It's a form of torture. And he describes his justification for that. That book may be 20 years old, but it's just as valid today as when he wrote it back then.
It's from the same playbook. It's from the same playbook.
What happened is I went to fight it. I went to fight it, and what happened is they told me that they were actually going to imprison my wife, and this is when I knew that this thing was all pre-planned and designed, and there's no such thing as a fair trial in the United States. The prosecutor in that case actually told my attorney to tell me, when I asked, my wife, you're going to go after my wife, what would you charge her with? And the prosecutor's reply was, don't you worry, we'll think of something.
Oh, they'll find something. Yes. I've heard that from many other people who've been imprisoned illegally by some part of our government. And
I want to speed it up because I'm taking things way off topic, and I don't want to do that. So let me just finish this up so we can get back to the purpose of why we're making this video.
Yeah.
So what happened is that, so I was sentenced for 33 months, and what they do in the United States, they love double dipping. What they do is they put this probation thing on you, and all it takes is a phone call from somebody on suspicion that maybe you're doing something to violate your probation. They just take you back and put you in prison. So on that basis alone, somehow, because the reason it involved the U.S. Secretary of State, the reason Hillary Clinton was involved was because in order to do this and to actually grab under an extraordinary rendition, CIA style, grab somebody and bring them back to states, it goes all the way up to the Secretary of State to sign these things. So subsequent to that, in 2012, the Ecuadorian government released a document saying that everything that happened to me was without legal foundation, which is kind of a nice, polite way of saying, look, you guys are a bunch of criminals. You violated our laws. You violated your laws. You took somebody that without without legal justification. So anyways, the point is I was sentenced to another 24 months in prison. So I've spent almost 5 years in federal prison, if you add it all together, over the selling, herbals, medicinal herbs, horrible narcotics. So in November of 2011, I had a vision quest.
Yes.
Sometimes you have some ability to determine the direction and the subject matter of the things that are discussed during the session. Other times you can be introduced to spirit guides who take over and say, this is what you need to learn now. Okay, you need to know this now. And then that can expand into another area of time-space contraction where you just start downloading. I mean, literally downloading a lot of information. What happened to me in November of 2011, I can't even recall the date, was that I was told that there was a coming event. Now, let me describe. People were thinking, well, someone was whispering in your ear. No, it's actually telepathic, just like clairvoyance.
Yes.
You're actually,
yes.
It's instant cognitive. It's totally communication by
yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's totally telepathic.
All
so anyways,
telepathic.
I was told,
yes.
This is what started the ball rolling. This is the genesis for the book. I was told that an event was coming where the third, fourth, and fifth dimensions would appear as if merged, as if separated by transparent curtains. Whereas now there's this rigid, the third dimension, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension. Perceptually, they would be merged. And that would result in a complete awakening, a mass global awakening. It felt, certain things I know with certainty because of how they're communicated. Other things I have to kind of surmise because the edges of the conveyance of the message can sometimes, certain areas are crystal clear, and other areas may be not so crystal clear. It appeared like this was somehow an astrophysical event. Something was coming. It appeared to emanate from the galactic center, and somehow the sun became some kind of mechanism for focusing it. Like when you were a kid and you took a magnifying glass to burn a leaf. Remember, we all did that as kids, right? You take a magnifying glass, it's a hot sunny day out, and you take the magnifying glass and you focus it on the leaf and you burn a dried leaf with your magnifying glass. Isn't that cool? Okay, so it was cool when we were little kids. Okay, so it looked like something energetically got funneled through the sun, and somehow we had this event, and this event dramatically affected world consciousness. That thing that happened to me, that vision quest in November 2011, I felt was so profound. I said, I need to make this into a project. I need to actually investigate this and see what the heck, what's behind this. So I did, it's the only time I've ever done it, a series of visions that were very targeted. That means you have intense intentionality. You're not screwing around. You're literally, you're doing your vision questing because you're looking to uncover more information about a very particular subject. So your vision quests are very targeted.
You have a specific purpose. You are on a mission.
Right, very much the way I'm sure you've read about CIA remote viewers who have a specific, we want to understand about this secret military base in Russia. So we're going to do a series of remote viewing sessions just to find out what's inside that military base. And of course you have your CIA overlord who's there to collect all the information and so forth. And it's similar. I think their methods are cruder. They would argue with me and say, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I've done remote viewing. It's not, this is a higher, I think if you have a certain kinship with a certain entheogen, I think that's a much higher grade of knowledge. And by the way, I haven't just Hayahuasca. I've done San Pedro, Yopo, Vilca seed, psilocybin mushrooms, but Ayahuasca is still my first love.
Is your go-to love drug?
Okay, well, I'll let that fly.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
well, I guess I could actually say that because in my 2012 book, I actually talk about these sessions I had with
exactly.
ayahuasca. And
Exactly.
ayahuasca,
Uh-huh.
they may call her abuela, but it is a female plant spirit. And
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
actually say in the
Uh-huh.
book that there are sessions of my interactions with this plant spirit
Mhm.
that bordered on the romantic. And I know that unless
Mhm.
people have done Vision Quest, they're not even going to know what I'm talking about. But you can have a very intense relationship with a plant spirit in the
Mhm.
same way you can have a very intense relationship with a human, and it's even more so because
Hmm.
when you're with someone that is incredibly, I mean, there's a certain almost air of omnipotence that comes off
Hmm.
of the ayahuasca, the abuela. There's
Hmm.
infinite creativity and infinite. I mean, she is.
Hmm.
I can't even ever I can't describe any relationship I've had with, let us say, a human female that would have even compared to this. There's
Mhm.
a certain expansiveness to it that words don't even justify. But anyways,
Sure.
getting back to it, I made a decision.
Which is much different than the herb Pedro. Was it San Pedro?
That's a male spirit. And
Yeah.
that's very
Ah.
domineering. That's a
Ah.
male.
Hmm.
That's a very masculine spirit. You know.
Huh.
And Vilkas again, female.
Hmm.
Um, I, I think I don't have as much experience with psilocybin mushroom, but I tend to think that it's more masculine. But um,
Hmm.
definitely unmistakable. Definitely,
Uh-huh.
uh, Hayahuasca abuela comes off as you're feeling it's a manifestation of the Divine Mother. Really, it's that
Huh.
overwhelming.
Hmm.
So, um,
Okay. And what next?
so so what happened is I decided, and I told my wife this. I told Catherine. I said, "Oh, I'm gonna specifically start doing journeys. I need to know what this is about because this was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Third and fourth dimension, fifth dimensions merging. What are you talking about?"
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm thinking at the time. So I did a whole bunch of journeys, and they lasted all the way longer than they should have. It lasted all the way, I think, into May of
Oh.
2012, which
Wow.
isn't enough time to write a book. So, and I mistakenly, because many things were told to me, but there were a lot of things that were not told to me. But because on a feeling level, everything felt so eminent.
Hmm.
There was a feeling of eminence, a feeling of this is really coming.
Mm-hmm.
That then this was all occurring to me at the time when all of this hullabaloo was going on about 2012 and the Mayan calendar and all this nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
that I thematically tied this knowledge into the event, and I shouldn't have. But that wasn't because I was told inaccurate knowledge. It was because I myself, as a human being, I made a mistake in terms of thinking that there was a correlation between the manifestations of all these things that I was told were coming and my attempt as a human being to say, "Oh, I've got to put a date to this,"
Ah,
because on the other
yes.
side, dates
Yes.
don't matter. They don't.
Yeah.
The farther you
Well,
get away from this third dimension, the more that our concept of what we call time becomes
yes.
plastic,
Mm-hmm.
becomes
Mm-hmm.
very malleable and we don't
Yes.
appreciate that. We don't
Yes.
appreciate that. You know,
Us humans, we love exact dates. We want the year, we want the month, we want the day, and we want the time of day.
another dimension.
Exactly. When
There's
this
no
will
sense of time.
that's normally how humans are. I mean, that's how we are wired. We want absolute certainty, zero risk. We forever want to be safe, warm, fuzzy, safe, safe,
Hmm.
safe. Yeah.
So I
Anyway,
was told this is coming
yeah, go
soon.
on.
I was told
Okay.
this is coming soon,
Soon. Soon.
not knowing what soon is.
Soon is.
Not,
It's
but
very
attempting to
relative.
in my own humanity to assign some definition as to what soon might mean. So here's what
Yes.
happens. I write this book, which goes into great detail about this event and what happens to animal and plant spirits when the species goes extinct.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of really, really amazing info. There's a lot of really amazing information in that book,
Mm-hmm.
irrespective of tying it to this future event that's coming soon. There's a lot of amazing information in that book. What happens to the elite? What happens to the people that have created this world and the satanic world? What is their fate? It gets into that in some considerable detail for a book
Jeez.
that's only whatever it is, 150 pages long, but it gets into some detail. So what happened is that here comes 2013, and as 2013 goes along, I just kind of said these are really incredible experiences, but since I don't really know. I don't know when this is coming. I don't have a date, and I have no basis of knowing when this is coming. I just was told that it was soon. And as remarkable as the revelations were, I kind of put it aside. Didn't think about it. Okay. It's in 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. 18, 2018.
Huh.
I just had finished these last two books. I'd finished The Joys of Psychopathocracy, and I'd finished this one. So,
okay.
And so I start having experiences while not on Hayahuasca. I start having experiences like I'm in the altered state of Hayahuasca without being in Hayahuasca. And it's accompanied the usual things you experience. Even when you're experienced using Hayahuasca, you still have the ataxia, the
What's ataxia?
Loss of muscle, kind of loss of equilibrium, the ataxia.
Oh.
Nausea, disorientation, these things that are accompany when you're in this altered state in Hayahuasca. I start having these in broad daylight. I have a couple instances where I'm driving a car and I have to pull over to the side of the road and put my emergency flashers on for a few minutes until this thing's over with.
Jeez.
I mean, and so at first I'm going, what in the hell is this? And then what happens to me, because you're thinking, is this some kind of illness? Have I got some kind of, what's happening to me? And what happened is very shortly thereafter, I started talking to friends of mine who are also experienced in the youth of entheogens, including
What are entheogens?
Entheogens are like Hayahuasca, these plants or plant compounds that you take to enter into an altered state for the search of knowledge.
Yes.
Again, not in the Western idea, not fake knowledge, real knowledge, direct knowledge.
Yes.
So even my friend Dr. Richard Sauter, the author of the Kundalini Tales, starts having these experiences, and they're wild, and we start sharing notes. And sort of my other friends start sharing these notes. I'm thinking, what the heck is this? And I've come to the conclusion that this is somehow related to this coming event, because this woman, an amazing woman, by the way, Dolores Cannon, who developed the quantum hypnotic healing techniques, had some pretty heavy-duty downloads of her own. I think she passed away in 2014 or 15.
Yes, yeah, she's passed.
Born in the same year as my parents, 1932. And she says, be on the lookout. You guys are going to start having these experiences, heavy-duty experiences, as you get closer to this event. So from 2012, the end of 2012, into 2018, it's like, don't even bother me with this stuff. I've got bills to pay. I've got my herbal work, and I've got, I'm, always involved in other products involving natural products. So didn't even think about it. When this started happening to me, it was no longer able to just completely ignore the subject, because it was affecting my entire physiology and affecting the physiology of those of my friends who are similarly developed in this area. So that's when it became something I really started paying attention to.
Your friends are similarly experienced with these herbs as you are.
Right. Birds of a feather.
Okay.
And most of my friends are.
Okay.
I'm not impressed by people who tell me they've got a lot of formal education. It's like,
okay.
So what?
Okay.
My circle of friends tend to be people who I regard as having accumulated a substantial amount of direct knowledge about the past, present, future, the multiverse, the spiritual realms, not because they read anything, because they've experienced it for themselves.
Okay.
And because this is the things that I've experienced, my friendships tend to be among those who have similarly.
Sure. Yeah. Birds of a feather. Okay. So you experience this in your car, you stop, and your friends also tell you they've had similar experiences. What happens next?
Yes.
What's next?
Well, what happens next is what we're in now. I mean, in speaking now, coming to the present in present tense, is that there is we're reaching this, in fact, that's why I call it living on the precipice. We're reaching this point where things are about to flip in a very profound way. You know, they say probably the oldest and most respected of all the ancient Chinese texts is the I Ching.
Yes.
Comprised of 64 hexagrams, each representing very specific principles of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And each hexagram responds to some kind of inadequacy and impurity of the hexagram that only preceded it. It's very much like we say in esoteric astrology.
Mm-hmm.
Each sign of the zodiac, its character is in response to some deficiency of the sign that immediately preceded it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In the I Ching, one of the basic and most universally recognized principles of the I Ching is that once you reach an extreme, everything reverts to its opposite.
Yes,
And
it
where we
swings
are
back.
now,
Right, it
we've
swings back.
reached to a point of
Mm-hmm.
such intense. We've reached this point in our little Luciferian nightmare we have going on here.
Yes.
Where you and I were joking not long ago about this whole Golden Globe thing with whatever the Ricky Gervais or whatever.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
that he just
Ricky.
right.
Yeah, from The Office sitcom. I think it's The Office. Go on.
Right. It's, you know, you could say that a lot. Remember at the end of his little monologue where he says, "You people know nothing. You're in no position to be talking to the public about anything."
Anything.
Right?
Anything. Yeah.
You know nothing. You don't have as much education as Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could say that about a lot more people than just the people who are well known in Hollywood. You could extend that to a whole. You could
just
extend that statistical cohort to a whole lot more people if you tried.
Well, just a little side note is I have a lot of PhDs in my family. My sisters, my brothers, my cousins, my second cousins, my etc. I mean, we have more PhDs than you can shake a stick at. So I know about PhDs.
Right. Yeah.
So
anyway, to
anyway,
answer your earlier question, where we're at now is that we're kind of riding this edge. We are, as I say in the title of our previous book, living on the precipice, because where we're at now is we are about to experience the delusion, the breakdown of a system that's based on so many delusions that go all the way down to the floorboard, based with the most fundamental thing of all. There's nothing that any of us do in our lives that doesn't somehow involve, directly or indirectly, the use of money. In fact, you have a handful of families have the ability to produce as many trillions of dollars as they want at will, completely corrupting the system because the rest of us actually do something for it. I mean, we actually work for a living. We actually do something for no one just sends us massive amounts of money, right? For doing absolutely nothing. So when the foundation of a house is completely cracked, what would you say about the rest of the house?
That's
if the foundation of your society is completely corrupt and irreversibly corrupt to the nth degree, what can you say about anything else about the house you build on that corrupt foundation? So that's why we have a system where everything money is this kind of centripetal force that pulls everything in and corrupts everything in our society, all our systems of value, our systems of because money becomes the only thing of value.
Okay, so let's wrap this one up. Let's have a video number 3, the last one, and in that video I'd like to hear more of you expanding on the information from the chapter Awakening, and then the chapter The New and the Old Earths. I want you to actually speak to those in detail. So YouTube channel subscribers, thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for part 3. Part 3 of 3, the last one. Greg, hang with us. We'll be right back. Thanks. Bye.